Peace, universe. My day's been good. It's not very too eventful. Just mostly working on some designs in the house, and um, that's basically it. This has been raining a lot over here where we're at. All day has been pouring for a couple of days, so we've just been staying in a lot. Haven't been out as much as I'd like to. Yeah, it's 11 p.m. I know, but I figure everybody be staying up late, so I'm gonna go live. Plus it's Friday night, so people probably staying up late anyways, just because that's the vibe going around at this time of the week. But I wanted to basically get on here and talk about a live that I had did in a post that I had made, talking about veganism and talking about where I was comparing veganism to Babylon. Because I feel like it's important to talk about. I think to me it's something that's important because through this journey, it's become more than just diet. It's become bigger than any just one diet. It's become like a journey of the self, really. Finding out and discovering who I am as a person, but also as a being. Who we are as human beings and what is best for us and where we belong. That's what the journey is turned into. So along my journey, I have tried a lot of things and I have tested a lot of things for myself. And, I had said in one of the videos that I have on my YouTube that veganism is Babylon. And I wanted to, go in further on that, and possibly if anybody has any questions or wanted to build on it, I'm open to that as well. But I want to break down why I said that veganism is Babylon. The reason I had said that is because what it's become and what veganism is now and what it represents and what it's morphing into is not anything natural. And it's not close to nature, and it's just ignoring nature, and it's creating something outside of nature. And at the end of the day, the bottom line and what my goal is to do is to be in tune with nature. And that doesn't matter to me if it's vegan or not, because my bottom line and what's most important to me is being in tune with the planet and being in tune with the earth and doing the best thing for the earth and for myself. And I believe those things are synonymous. When you do the best thing for yourself, you do the best thing for the earth. But if that's not a vegan diet, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it not being vegan, because at the end of the day, like I said, I'm just gonna go take some cover because it started raining. Like I said, at the end of the day, if it's not vegan, I'm okay with that, because my bottom line, my goal is to connect with nature and be in tune with nature and be in my natural environment. And I'm not so focused on trying to be part of something that civilization created, because the way I look at it is that we created veganism because we believe that that's what's best for us. But most of us don't come from a natural environment. Most of us come from urban environments. Most of us come from being very disconnected from real nature. So it's easy for people to sell us things. It's easy for people, and especially melanated people, and even people like myself. I consider melanated, but like Hispanic and black people, I think the more lost a people is, the easier it is to sell them something, or the easier it is to pitch them something, and they'll go with it, And so I feel like because we've been in urban places, because we've been so disconnected from nature, that somebody could just come and pitch us something, we'll buy it, because we don't know what it really is. We never been in nature. We never been in the jungle. We never try to grow and harvest our own food. So it's like, as soon as somebody comes in sounding like they know what they're talking about, we'll go with it, we'll run with it, and we'll put ourselves in that box. Like I keep saying, we'll lock ourselves into that mentality, and we won't, and then we'll be so attached to it and attach our identity to it that we won't want to go outside of the constraints of that box that we set up for ourselves. So that's what that download was about. It's about bringing awareness. Look, at the end of the day, the planet don't need you to be part of any cult. It don't need you to be part of a veganism society. It don't need you to be nothing. All the planet needs from you and from me is for us to get in tune with it and at the end of the day, if that means that you have to do something or partake in something that is outside of an ethical or moral philosophy that you bought into, I'm personally okay with that, because I'm not buying into those philosophies anymore. Because in nature, and somebody sent me a video, and there's a kind of a good awakening, but it sent me a video of herbivores eating meat. And it's not to say that we gotta slaughter every animal that we see. And this is the difference. When people hear of somebody eating meat, that we don't differentiate between somebody who eats McDonald's burgers every day or somebody who's eating an animal that they harvested consciously from their environment once a month. We don't differentiate that, because we've been programmed, you're either vegan or you're not. You either eat plants or you eat animals. Which one are you going to choose? Whose team are you on? That's the way we programmed ourselves. We don't really know what nature is. We don't really, not really in tune with that world, because in that world, everything is sacred. And indigenous people are animists. I'm an animist because I believe that all life is sacred. I believe that there's energy in all beings and that everything contains that intelligent force of the universe. So why would I place a hierarchy on that? Why would I be like, oh, animals are more important than plants because they more closely reflect who I am, or what I look like, you know? So there's actually a psychological reasoning for this. We have found that animals that closer reflect what we look like, we have more compassion for. We have more compassion for animals that look what we look like, because inherently we're programmed to want to preserve ourselves. Self-preservation is one of the laws of nature. So when we see something that looks closer to what we look like, we have more compassion, and we're more skeptical about interacting with that in a way that is detrimental to one of those beings, you know. But in nature, all energy eats energy. Life takes life to sustain life. It's a constant web of give and take, and there isn't any discrimination. It's just is. And this is the problem with modern day so-called consciousness, that everybody wants to be conscious, everybody wants to be aware, everybody wants to be woke. But what comes with that is that you stop being, you stop living life trying to dissect everything. Now, it is necessary for us to wake up and come to an awareness, because it'll bring us out of that situation that we put ourselves into. But once we come out of that and put ourselves back into our natural environment, we gotta just be. Because it would do us no good to keep trying to dissect and break down everything when we're already in the place that we're supposed to be at. And so at that point, we just gotta be. But everybody's too focused on trying to break everything down and psychoanalyze everything and put some deep meaning into something that isn't there, instead of just accepting things for what they are. We don't accept nature for what it is. We want to accept nature only under the conditions that we have for it. So, and this is what happened with me. Like, I got tired of trying to romanticize nature. I'm tired of trying to paint a story that there's no evidence for. Like, for instance, I've been searching for a tribe. I've been searching for people who have practiced a vegan diet and who continue to practice a vegan diet to this day, and have multiple generations of people who have lived and sustained on plants alone and fruits alone. And I have not been able to find any evidence anthropologically or even in any form that that's the case, you know. So looking further into it, I have to step back and be like, am I willing to accept the truth for what it is? Or am I going to continue to try to force this ideology into this realm that doesn't fit, you know? And it's bigger than protein. It's bigger than that. It's not even about that. It's about being in tune with nature for real. Like, cause it's like, I find that it's very interesting. Like, everybody thinks that they're in tune with nature. Like, it's a popular thing nowadays to say that you're in tune with nature, and it's become somewhat of a phrase that just gets tossed around. But the people that say they're in tune with nature, half of the time, they ain't in tune with nature. And there's people out there who are really in tune with nature who don't even know that they're in tune with nature. They're more in tune and know about the plants and the animals and their environment than the people claiming that they're in tune with nature. And that's the issue. We get too ahead of ourselves. We think we know everything because we read a book or saw a video and came into this new age of consciousness. You know, the it's so interesting to me, the new age, right? New age philosophies have all come in. Everybody's a spiritual guru and everybody thinks they have all the answers. But we don't have any backing to support this, and we don't have any elders or any people who have lived enough of the knowledge that these people are teaching to verify that, yeah, that is true. Most of the time, everybody's just saying they got downloads, saying they got information from the universe without any backing up to support it. And because we don't know who we are, because we're lost, we put in a situation where we don't know who we are and where we come from. Most of us can't even look back 3 generations because it's all a big blur. If we try to look back to where our family came from, it just looks like a big black blur, you know, because we don't know who we are. Like, even for myself, I can trace myself maybe to my grandmother, but even further than that, it's like, I don't know. I really don't know where my lineage comes from, and my traditions and culture, like, it's kind of blurry as you look back. So for people like that, and especially African American people who came from another continent and lost all their culture, their language, their practices, it's easy for people to sell us something, you know? And it's easy for, when you can't trace who you are, to want to attach yourself to something that sounds good, you know? My people, they're from Mexico, about central Mexico, but before that, like I'm saying, I don't know. They might have come from southern Mexico, they might have come from Guatemala. It's just a blur because historically we haven't kept up with that. There's no culture that keeps up with the history. Like the Native Americans in certain cultures, they would pass down the information, stories, and history of who they are and their peoples through storytelling and through that culture, you know, of having a community and having people that congregated and were in tune in the same frequency, you know. But that has been lost. We've been separated. Now it's the nuclear family, it's mom and dad and children, but we exclude the grandparents, we exclude other parts of the family. We only get together on occasions, but we're not building a culture like we used to be. So a lot of that gets lost, and then we find young people like ourselves looking for something to attach to, looking for something to grab onto. Where's my tribe? You know, I want to find my tribe because within us, we feel that need to want to find that because it's a part, I believe it's a part of the human because we're social animals, to be interacting in a community, you know? So there is that need within us, but that need gets taken advantage of by people who came into awareness of information before you did, and now they're trying to appear like they have all the answers, you know. So they'll sound like they know what they're talking about. We got a lot of science out there, but not all science is equal and not all science is true. You know, companies and people manipulate science for their own selfish purposes, and even spiritual people manipulate for their own selfish purposes, you know. And at the end of the day, my purpose and what I want to do is, I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. When my son grows up and he comes to me and he asks me, like, hey dad, like, you knew what was going on, you knew the world was not doing good, you knew people weren't living how they were supposed to be living, and he comes to me with that question, and he asks me, what did you do about it? Shit, I want to be able to say that, you know, I actually did something that had an effect, that had an impact, that I actually took the effort to find out what it is best, you know, and not just went with the flow and with the flow of Babylon, you know, with the flow of civilization, with the flow of celebrities trying to dictate what's best for me. But I went out and I actually found out for myself, you know. I put myself in a situation to know what's best by experience, and not by osmosis of words, you know, but by actual, you know, experience that I could feel with my being, that I could partake in. And I want to pass that down to him, you know, and I want to create a memory of what it is to know yourself. I want to create a memory and a legacy of knowing who we are and knowing what we're supposed to be doing and what our place is here on this earth. Because if we continue at this rate, there ain't gonna be much left for our children and our grandchildren to do anything with. The Native Americans is one of the things that I look up to them about, is that they always thought 7 generations ahead. And most of us, we don't even think 1 generation ahead. We're just strictly, if we can do it in that moment, we don't care about the repercussions or the implications for the future. We just do it because it feels good in that moment and it tastes good and it's all good for us in that moment. But what about the future? What about, the generations to come? What then will be left for them to be able to enjoy if we don't even take care of what we have now, And that's my approach, and that's why I'm always seeking the truth. It's not because I want to be a guru or I want to teach anybody anything, or say I'm the guru of gurus and I have all the answers. It's because I want to inspire people to find for themselves who they are, to discover who they are, to come into connection with that piece of themselves that's a gaping hole right now, but to remember and to be aware of who they are, and if they can't, to create who they are and to decide from this moment that that's who they're going to be, and to create that legacy and pass that down. That's why I do what I do. I'm trying to inspire. I'm not trying to be anybody's master. I'm not trying to be anybody's nothing, no guru. I don't have all the answers. I'll admit it to you right now. I barely know anything, but I'm on a mission to find out. Like, I'm definitely doing my due diligence and trying to figure it out, not to be praised for it, but for myself and for my son and for my family, to be able to give them the best, to be able to be the best version of me that I could be, because that's going to reflect out into the world, obviously. But so that's why I'm always wary of things and information that that I see on the internet, because if you just tap into these new age accounts, it's so easy to get lost, because it's easy to get lost because people talk a lot, but they do very little. And we can make all the quotes in the world that we want, but unless we're really out there in the world and applying things to our life and feeling it for ourselves, then it's very useless. And the internet is a very interesting place, because you have people who have no experience claiming to have all the answers. Meanwhile, the people with experience, who are actually the elders, don't even know how to use the internet, so they can't even get on and share information with the people that's actually backed by some sort of experience, So the cocky youngsters will be like, oh yeah, man, you gotta be spiritual. Everything is vibration. Everything is energy. We should be vegan, plant-based, it's gonna save the world, animal, and it's like there's this whole culture going around of people thinking they got all the answers, but no experience. Meanwhile, the people who have the experience, like I said, they don't know how to use the internet a lot of the times. They don't know how to get on here and share with us what they've learned throughout their years, and I want to, if I ever encounter people on my journey, I want to actually bring them onto my platform and share them with the world, because I feel like their voices need to be heard. What they've been through need to be heard. And granted, not everybody that's older is wise, but there is a lot of people who back in the 60s and 70s went through these kind of movements and experience, and can tell you like, oh yeah, that's not all it's cracked up to be, because that was going on back then. But when we look deeper, it wasn't really like that, so that's what I'm finding out. This is all very surface level for somebody who's never been in tune with nature, never been having to depend on just the land. It's very easy to claim veganism. It's very easy to try to buy into that lifestyle. But what I'm saying is that that's something we created. Like, we made that vegan term up. We romanticized the idea that we should be eating only plants. We did that to ourselves, and now we're trying to make it work. We're trying to make it fit. We're trying to make something that it's not be something else. So people come into the surface like, oh yeah, this vegan diet made me sick, or I need to do this. Like Raw Vanna, she got caught eating fish. This raw foodist or vegan that was promoting vegan foods, and then she got caught eating fish, and then she had to explain to people why she did what she did, because she put herself in a box and appealed to an ideology that she couldn't even support in real life. You know, the internet world is one world, but in real life, people are doing something else that ain't matching with what's online. So I made a choice. Like, I'm not part of no religion. Like, I don't even want to label myself anything, because at any given moment I could adjust. You know, I could become something else. Yeah, and that's good. You know, but I'm saying don't get too attached to that vegan diet, Don Legend, because I believe everything serves a purpose, and I believe that through certain situation experiences we do better ourselves, but then we come to other stages in our growth that require us to do other things and take other routes, and then we find new information. So just all I'm saying is to stay open. I'm not saying that the vegan diet won't work for some people or is not has a purpose, you know, but I'm saying it's to stay open and don't get too attached to labels and to things like that, because at the end of the day, what do you want to be in tune with for real? For real, do you want to be in tune with Babylon or nature? Because if nature said like, hey bro, like the fruit that you like is not in season right now. There's things didn't do as well this year. They're just not growing on the trees. They didn't fruit this year like they usually do. But you know, you can harvest some fish from this river or this sea that you could take for subsistence. Are you gonna say no to that because you want to be in tune with Babylon when you're in nature for real, for real? So that's what I'm saying. Like, don't get too attached to that, because that's a label that is attached to a civilization. If you need civilization to have veganism, and civilization destroys the environment and destroys ecosystems and destroys entire forests to plant monocrops of a food to feed vegans, is that more important to you than actually being in tune with nature? Or do you really want to do what it takes to be in tune with nature? Why are you holding on to an ideology that men created, is what I'm trying to say. Don't get too attached to that. It might come a moment where you might need to adjust. It might come a moment where we find more information out and discover that perhaps eating meat or eating fish or eating a scallop or eating an egg or eating raw goat's milk every once in a while might have some benefit, or it might be less of an impact than trying to be vegan in New York City. Because if you Google search where is the easiest place to be vegan, it's not going to say the jungle, it's not going to say the tropics, it's not going to say anything that you correlate to nature. It's going to give you a list of cities. And the list of cities is the place where it's easiest to be vegan. Why? Because veganism requires fresh fruits and vegetables year round, and especially in the States, it's not realistic, and that's why a lot of the food is imported, because to feed this demand for fruits and vegetables year round, you have to import from other environments. That's a detriment to the earth within itself, not only because you're taking from another environment and displacing animals, but because having to ship all that food requires a lot of resources from the earth. You know, but if we had to eat locally, only what's available to our environment, we'd be forced to be more flexible. And this is what I'm saying: be flexible. You know, don't cage yourself into something that later on you might want to get out of, because we put ourselves in situations that are detrimental to ourselves, you know, and then when we need to get out of it, it becomes harder, because we already wrapped our identity, who we believe we are, we wrap that around an ideology, and that's dangerous, you know, because who you are is nothing that I can put into words. It's nothing that I could make a philosophy out of. And if that is you, then that is just limiting who you are, because you're everything. You have the potential to be everything. When you're in with nature, you're really supreme. That's the most supreme place you could be. And that might not be vegan, is what I'm saying. Straight up, that might not be vegan. And that's why the Rastafarians, when they went to Jamaica, the Rastafarians, they wasn't vegan. They were eating fish. Because here's the thing. It was more important to them to have freedom and sovereignty and be liberated than to be part of a religion that society that had them in bondage created in the first place, you know. And yes, Rastafarian people are very conscious, they're very aware, but they ain't worried about trying to keep up with the Joneses in Babylon and civilization. They're just trying to be liberated, you know, in themselves, in their mind, and that's why they eat fish, but they still eat fruit, they still eat vegetables, they still live close to the earth, you know. So that's all I'm saying. What's more important to you, you know? Do you think organic food is really organic? Who's to say they didn't just slap the label? And that's another thing, organic, and that's why I'm so skeptical about the labels, because if you notice now, everything that was never had any animal products in it, like that, you know, it had never had animal products in it. Now they'll just slap on the vegan label just because they know it'll sell and appeal to people more, or it'll appeal to that cult. You know, so see what I'm saying? Same with the USDA organic. They have to pay for that. Like a food might very well be organic, but if they don't pay for that labeling, they're not allowed to put organic on the packaging. So you know, and even foods that are organic, now there's so much cross-contamination, and they actually plant the crops so close to each other that they're contaminated with pesticides anyways already. So even the food that is organic ain't really organic, you know. And not to mention the fact that everything's been so, you know, genetically modified, cross-pollinated, all of that. Yeah, exactly, you know. But Joan Rose, you know, I know Ross is eating fish and stuff, you know, and it's organic, it's from their environment. That fish that they eat is more in tune and vibrating at the frequency of that environment that they're in than the vegan who's eating a banana that's from Ecuador. They're actually not in tune with their environment if they're being vegan eating bananas from Ecuador, you know. So it's a different level of awareness at this point. It's like looking at the nuances and the details, because the devil is in the details. People could fool you sometimes, but they can't. People could fool you sometimes, but they can't fool you all the time. Eventually people are gonna you know, they're gonna catch on to what's going on for real. Yeah, if you live in Babylon, like, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter where you live. If you choose to live in the States, because Babylon is everywhere, you know. North America has Babylon, but Central America has Babylon too. South America has Babylon too. Africa has Babylon too. It's everywhere, you know. So wherever you choose to live, all I'm saying is make an effort to eat what's in your environment, what's close to you, and make that the majority of your diet. And then anything you can't get from there, you know, try to grow yourself also, you know, or try to go out and harvest food. Like in America, there's a lot of blackberries and blueberries grow wild in America. A lot of parts of America, especially the northeastern part of America, there's a lot of wild food growing around. And if you were so curious as to want to connect with your environment, then you will go out and find out when the season is, and you would venture out and take a hike and go harvest some of that food for yourself and be connected really to where you're at, you know. So that's what I recommend, getting in tune with your environment and eating the food from around there, because that's more sacred to me. Nobody ever in the history of humanity has eaten anything other than what's in their environment and what's growing seasonally and at that time of the year. It is only until modern times that we introduce not only processed food, but food that is from another part of the world that's not from where we're at, you know. And I think that does something to the planet and to us that we don't quite fully understand, and that's not positive. Yeah, so, you know, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. Anthropologically, we did eat meat. That's why I'm saying, like, I'm looking through the anthropological lenses. Like, I'm looking to like science and what people who dedicate their life to finding out these kind of things are saying, and they're saying that every evidence they find civilizations. Of course, they eat meat. Shit, even the chimpanzees, the bonobos that are 99.9% related to us, eat meat. They don't do it every single day. They don't eat meat as a regular practice, but it is a part of their diet. And this is all I'm saying. Even the Native Americans or the Mayans and the Aztecs and the native people where I come from, they ate a small portion of their diet that came from um, reptiles in their area, birds in their area, or even some mammals that were in their area. But it was a small part of their diet, but it was a part of their diet nonetheless. And that plays an important role because there's a lot of nutrients, there's a lot of different things that build us up and make who we are in those foods that we're not going to be able to get even if we're supplementing with a lot of these foods, I believe, because people talk about microRNAs and how animals change the expression of who you are if you eat them. But listen to this. If you're living in an environment, wouldn't you want to share the expression of that animal to get closer in tune to your environment? Wouldn't you want to maybe once in a while consume that animal so that you can unlock parts of your genetics that would make you more adaptable to that environment? And this is the concept behind, one of the concepts behind animism, which is the predominant religion of all indigenous people. They understood that when they consumed an animal and they did give thanks to the God, to the universe for providing that meal, and it was something sacred to them. They didn't just go out and hunt to kill and not eat it. They made use of every part. But they understood that when they ate that animal, that they took in the spirit of that animal. That's how they looked at it. So that's the same thing with microRNAs. You're taking on the spirit of that animal that's helping you to be more in tune with that environment. Shit, if you eat a reptile that's in your environment, you will know how to move through the leaves and be more subtle and develop some of those characteristics because you're taking on the spirit of the animal, and that's just the indigenous perspective that they had. So then comes the new age people that come and try to say, oh, well, they were vegan, they just, the history's not saying right. They're not telling us the truth. They were actually vegan. They're trying to force their ideology. Granted, they don't have no experience of being in tune with nature. They're talking about coming from LA, Los Angeles, or New York City, or Atlanta, and being vegan there, but they're trying to impose their ideologies on a culture that was way more in tune with nature than they could ever imagine to be. They were so in tune with nature that they didn't differentiate between plant and animal. Everything was sacred, and they respected the bond that they held with their environment. Vegans don't even do that. They just, as long as they don't fucking have a nervous system, they don't care. They don't see it as sacred shit. I'll eat that fruit, I'll eat that herb, I'll eat whatever. As long as they don't have a nervous system and don't look like me or don't act like me and can't function like me, then shit, I'll take it and eat it. Or, it's not something sacred anymore because we lost that connection with the environment, unfortunately. And so we're getting back to that, we're getting back to that level of awareness. Chipilon plant. I feel like I heard of that, y'all girl. What is that, chipilon? Yeah, and so somebody told me, even Dr. Sebi said that the milk from the buffalo was actually alkaline, And there's a whole different thing that I have probably bring out about whole alkaline acid, concept that I'll talk about some other time. But even he, and even Dr. Sebi ate fish. I think sometimes we lock ourselves in a box and we don't listen to our bodies. But some of these people, they were actually trying to listen to their body and being in tune with it, and their body was like, yeah, you might want to eat some fish, get some of that nutrient that fish gonna give you that you're not getting from your diet. So they did it, and then we demonize him for it, like, oh, I can't believe Dr. Sebi got caught eating fish. Or maybe he was just smart enough that he was tuned into his body, that he was like, shit, that might help me, it might be beneficial for me. We don't look at it that way because we're already in a box, and everything is useful. Don't get me wrong, the herbs are useful. Indigenous people use mad herbs, they were in tune with their environment. They understood that senna leaf would cleanse people out if they had gastrointestinal issues, especially people where I come from. That's a popular herb, But why are we leaving out a whole kingdom? There's animal, plant, fungal, and bacteria kingdoms. These are the 4 kingdoms. We're eating from just one because our ideology is locked here. This is reality. This is everything in nature is accessing all of these kingdoms without discrimination. But we're not in tune with nature. We're in tune with Babylon. We're in tune with society. We're in tune with civilization, with the celebrities, and with what's hot, what's selling. That's what we're in tune with when we tap into that consciousness and we choose to put ourselves in that box. I am Don Legend. I do believe ganja has a place in consumption, you know, just like every other herb. I believe if it grows in your natural environment, or it can grow in your environment, I believe you should use that plant. And I don't think you should abuse it. I don't think you should be smoking every day. I think if you smoke, it should be like a ceremony. It should be sacred. And I believe you can use it like culinary, you know, cooking and stuff. You can use the herb too, you know. But it's just like we take everything, we adulterate it, we put it on steroids. You know, even the weed nowadays we got is on steroids. It ain't the same organic wild weed that we used to have. It's too potent. It's not balanced. It's got too much THC, not enough CBD, not enough of the other cannabinoids that actually balance out and bring, you know, harmony to your body. It's just out of whack, and that's just a representation for everything else that we do and who we are. We falling out of balance, you know. Oh, okay. It's a plant. It's a leaf, like lettuce. I might have had it. Maybe I know it by another name, you know. Yeah. So there's a lot of plants out there. I just found out about a pepper because I love spicy foods, you know. And people where I come from, you know, my culture, we love spicy foods, you know. I'll bite into a habanero, you know, but we're always eating pepper like it's a biscuit, you know, with our meal. But that goes back culturally. We used to eat cacao with peppers, with hot peppers, and we used to trade different foods like that. You know, I found out about a little pepper that's about the size of a peppercorn, but it's supposed to be hotter than a habanero, or at least similar in spiciness. So I wanted to check that out. Yeah, I believe, you know, fish. I think fish is something that if you're coming from a vegan diet that you might want to introduce every once in a while, you know, especially some wild caught salmon or some scallops or something like that. And if you're weary about the nervous system, know that scallops don't have a nervous system. So if you want to discriminate in that way, then feel free to eat a scallop because it doesn't have a nervous system, and it'll give you some much needed nutrients that your body just may need, okay? Yeah, I always want to see seeds too. I always tripped when I always got frustrated because people were like, "Oh, this got no seeds. Like this good stuff." I'm like, "What? It's a plant. It's supposed to have seeds. Like why wouldn't it have seeds? Like that was kind of weird to me, you know." But I understood that the culture. See, that's what I'm saying. People don't want to be in tune with nature. They want to be in tune with the culture of civilization. So that's more important to them. So they'll go along with Snoop Dogg telling them no seeds, none of that, no sticks, no, you know, just that sticky icky shit. You know, that's what's more important to them. You know, but it's because we're disconnected. You know, we don't know who we are. Yeah, the weed is crazy, man. Last time when I was in the mainland and I was smoking, like the last time, I was just like, it was just too much for me. Like I take one hit and I'm good, but people just like down in whole blunts and bong rips, and then they got the whole um, wax and all that. I was just like, that's too much, man. We're taking it too far. What's next? This ain't sacred no more. I don't know. I just try to do things in balance and you know, moderation and have purpose behind it. But you know, not everybody's like that. But anyways, that's what I wanted to share with you guys, just in case you wanted some further clarification or you wanted a different perspective. I hope that, you know, I provided that today and that I shed some light into a different perspective of veganism than you might have previously had, you know. So with that being said, I'm gonna get off now, see, maybe get something to eat, and I hope you guys have a beautiful night. Hey, peace, Nana. Hope you guys have a beautiful night, and just consider what was said. And if you have any questions, want to connect and build, you know, feel free to reach out. And I'm gonna keep talking about this because I'm gonna keep pushing this because I feel like it's important, you know, and I feel like we need to talk about this as conversations that we need to have to really open up the minds, because people think their mind is open, but they're really in a box, you know. And but it's just it's levels to it. We know we're progressing, we're moving on. Just keep learning, you know. That's all I can say. So, all right, you guys have a good night. Peace. Travel well.